Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Alazouzi from easymedicaldevice.com, and today we'll talk about CE certification. So today we'll have a kind of a lecture or a course about what is a CE certificate, how you do the transfer of a CE certificate, what is renewal, what is surveillance, and maybe also withdrawal of a CE certificate. And for that, I have with me someone from TÜV SÜD, Ralf Gansel. So Ralf, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hello, Monir. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for you for coming and educating us more about this topic, which we receive a lot of questions. I suppose you also receive a lot of questions about that. So yeah, it would be really, I think, a great information. But before we start about that, can you tell us more about you?
Yes, of course. So my name is Ralf Gansel, as you already mentioned. I'm now working for TÜV SÜD 7 years. I started as an auditor and product specialist, an expert for functional safety in the field of the active medical implants. And now I'm heading the department, special operations and support. Sounds crazy, but we do a lot of stuff, especially the onboarding of new clients. So we are pretty familiar with the process of onboarding, certification, and how everything works. And we are dealing with active, non-active devices and implantables, as well as the IVDs.
So it's great then. So I suppose then you are dealing also with transfer. Some people that are transferring their certificate to you then.
Exactly. We've been pretty busy during the time before end of the transition period in May. Any kind of transfers and the confirmation letters we provided to a lot of clients.
So let's dig about that a bit later. But
Yeah,
before we are starting to review each of the phases, if I can say, can we have an understanding from A to Z of a CE certificate, when it starts, when it ends, and what are the different, if I can say, cycle or different stage for each of those certificates?
sure, absolutely. So when we are talking about certification, we think about the devices itself, and therefore we are in the medical device area and with the MDR. So one cycle includes always a product and audit. And when we start with the onboarding process, we start with a product assessment, so TD assessment. So not everyone is aware that we have to first assess the product itself before we start with an audit. Everyone focus mainly on the audit and just do not really consider this. And when we've performed the TD assessment and we almost closed it, then we focus on the audit with a stage 1 and stage 2 audit. This will be done at the end so that we do not have problems with the certification phase, as we have to be aligned with a positive result and we cannot wait too long. When we receive the positive result of the TD assessment and we perform the stage 1 audit and the stage 2 audit, then we create the certificate. If it's a low risk device, then it's one certificate. If we just talk about high risk devices, then we just have a product certificate, and a QM certificate will be released in parallel. Now we need to know that this is valid for 5 years.
Yeah.
But that it remains valid for the 5 years, there are a lot of activities necessary, like the surveillance activities. So every notified body will come each single year for surveillance audits. And we also have to sample the device. That means we will assess, if you just have many devices, we will choose from a risk classification, risk-based approach, every single year a device. If there's only one device, then it will every year the same. And then we will come on-site and audit, so the surveillance audits. There are some differences from surveillance activities, that we reduce the amount of chapters we look into. So it's not always the full scope of the MDR and ISO when we come on-site. So it's reduced amount, but then after surveillance 1 and surveillance 2, we come for a recertification audit. And this we continue for in total 5 years. There will be also one unannounced audit in that time. And then we have 5 years almost reached, and then the client has to apply for a renewal. This will later on a question you already mentioned.
Yeah.
I also want to bring at this point that we also have an ISO certificate, and there's a difference because it's non-MDR, and we have a 3 years cycle from a validation perspective of the certificate, and it will be automatically new issued when we just made the first surveillance, the second surveillance, and the recertification audit. After that, there will be a new certificate and a new validation days. So there's a really big importance. You need to understand that for non-MDR activities, you don't need to officially apply again, but it's just only valid for 3 years. And MDR, IVDR is valid for 5 years, and you have to apply again with an application.
So when you
But
say application, it means that if you forgot to apply, your certificate can expire and then you are not certified anymore.
Unearth the pulse of the medtech world with MedTech Conf, a dynamic platform featuring global events on medical devices, biologicals, IVD, and pharmaceuticals. Stay informed, stay ahead, connect, share, and elevate your knowledge. Become an official sponsor. Make your event shine on the map. MedTech Conf, your key to the medtech universe. Remember, the future is now, and it's at your fingertips with MedTech Conf.
yes, so if everyone just closes the eyes and do not talk to each other, that's true. Of course, there will be an exchange and you will notified, okay, hey, it will expire. We have to come and you have to apply. There are some concerns that after this 5 years process, the application will more or less the same as during the initial process, and everyone came down. It's not the same. So there's a big difference, and we do not look into the full scope of it, but later on more in detail.
Yeah, because when you do, so we have the creation of the certificate. When you do surveillance one, surveillance two, etc., you are not checking everything in surveillance one or checking everything in surveillance two. It's a cycle. So it means that during this cycle, you have to check everything, but you can divide it within the different surveillance audits.
Exactly. So the client or the manufacturer will receive an audit plan with different chapters. They are look into this year's audit. And in the next surveillance audit, they follow up with the missing chapters from the MDR and the ISO, so that in general, both surveillance audit are one recertification audit.
Okay. So now, when we have this certificate and we are renewing that, it's all fine. When it's expiring, and we have done nothing or we voluntarily do nothing, so we cannot sell anymore, if I can say. So it's more the date of expiration is the last day of selling of the device. So you are not responsible anymore of the products on the this company has on their stock.
Exactly. So expiration date, it's a hard deadline. So there is no possibility to bring the products further on the market.
And withdrawal, you have also the option to withdraw a certificate if you want.
Well, yes, both sides have. So if they are not following up with their audit findings, or if we just have major concerns, field safety corrective actions or vigilant cases, so also the notified body has the option to withdraw a certificate. That would not happen just from 1 week to another. But yeah, this is the option. And this is a notification to the client, okay, hey, there are serious concerns and you need to provide actions that we just reinitiate the certificate again. But
Exactly. So in terms of the renewal now, as you explained to it, so we have this cycle of surveillance and then renewal, and then we start again with the new certificates. So I always had this question in my mind, and maybe some people also had that question about why do we have a renewal if there is a continuous surveillance of every year of the company? So what brings the renewal on the table that continuous surveillance is not bringing?
So It's a very good question. And we have an approval scheme we have a certification scheme and not an approval scheme. So we are well aware of the pharma industry with their medications, and they have a very long process getting on the market. And once they're on the market, they can follow up with these surveillance because there are not real changes. But we are talking about products with constant changes. So they are not what are the constant changes? So we have state of the art, we have standards we are following. They are continuously updating. We have now the MDR, before we had the directive, so there are changes, and so that would be very revolutionary when we change this process. Because of these changes, we always need to look into if there are some prohibitions on animal origin, like some substances are not allowed anymore. Then we have to look into and update accordingly. And I wanted to ask you a question. So, if you are in the situation you need a pacemaker, implantable pacemaker, would you have rather a device which is 15 to 20 years old from a battery technology, and there are some improvements? Would you have this, or would you love the device which is up to date?
Oh, sure. I think I would love the device up to date. But in that case, your process, for example, when you are doing a renewal or we are recertifying the product, you can decide, because the product is not state of the art anymore, to not continue the certification, to not certify or renew the certificate of the product, correct?
Well, in this process, we expect that the manufacturer update their documents based on the new standards and the new requirements. And we look into this gap. So we have our experts, they are well aware of these changes. They are involved in these areas, in this code. And of course, we expect the updates, and that's what we review during the assessment of the renewal process. And therefore, if they do not fulfill the requirements, then we can push back and say, okay, hey, you need to update this because this is not acceptable anymore. And then we can postpone the new certificate. We would not withdraw or say, okay, you don't have access anymore just because you're not at that stage. But they get the information, okay, there's a certain gap and you need to fulfill this, and please provide the evidence.
So is it then a recommendation maybe from your side to have a renewal process that starts way before the expiration date of your certificate?
No, not really. So we have a certain service model where we just look into this. This is usually about 100 days.
Okay.
And it doesn't make sense to look 2 years in advance in it, because first of all, so it costs money.
Yeah.
And it would reduce your expiration day. So you have this 5 years, so use it and just start the process early enough, maybe at least 6 months in advance for the assessment if there is a gap. But you are in a constant exchange, so it's not like we certify you and then so see you in 5 years.
Exactly.
So we are constantly in exchange with the surveillance audits and also with the TD assessment, the sampling every single year. So there is a feedback and there is an exchange, and we share this information when there is an update.
Yeah, I suppose that, yeah, the constant discussion with notified bodies is important, so that you are sharing information about maybe updates about the device and whatever. And you, as maybe notified body, you are also sharing your concerns maybe about some situation that they have to solve before maybe reaching the renewal. So yeah, this constant communication is really important. And as you said, you are not just giving a certificate and saying goodbye until let's see us again in 5 years. So it's, if I can say, a permanent discussion that you have to keep with the customers.
That's absolutely something which changed in the past years. that's the transparency and the communication with the notified bodies. So we're not the ones who just want to kill your certificate. So we are more or less in a relationship, and you just need to exchange on a constant base. And that only works via communication and sharing this information.
Yeah. In terms of the actual situation during this transition period, you have some companies that still have an MDD certificate, maybe until 2027, 2028, and at the same time they are going to MDR. So, in terms of audit from your side and for the certificate, so can we continue to do the surveillance audit under MDD and work on the renewal on the MDR at the same time? Can we combine the things? So what is your experience on doing this transition from MDD to MDR and with the surveillance audit and the certification audit?
Yeah, very good question. Because it's not clear to everyone. So we had this deadline on the 26th of May, and everyone from industry is now under the umbrella of this confirmation letter to use the deadline till 2028 for the low-risk devices and 2027 for high-risk devices. That's true. And what is the deal? So we have to be on site every single year for the surveillance audits, yeah, but no sampling. So this TD part is not applicable for this transition period. But in parallel, we have to start the process with the MDR. And this can be done in parallel. Of course, we are all interested that we just have the devices on the market. So there was also the idea behind this new transition period that we just still have the products on the market. And I want to highlight something that everyone needs to consider due to this deadline. It's a gift from the European Commission, but you should not underestimate what is happening. So there are a lot of confirmation letters created for this time, and there will be a new wave. So we cannot say, okay, like June 2027 and say, okay, in 6 months, the deadline, it would be nice if you just can make our MDR assessment. That will probably not work out. So that's too less of time. And therefore, I would like to encourage everyone to reach out the notified body soon enough and plan this way ahead, so that everyone has their business not at risk and we are under this assessment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm working with some customers on certification, and sometimes it took 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years to finalize certification because people are thinking, oh, as soon as I finish my technical file, I send that to notified body and now I'm done. But no, it's not the reality. We have always some question and answers, some rounds of discussion, round of question, and it can take 1 year, even just for the round of questions. So yeah, I have to plan that really in advance and not think that 6 months will be enough. I never saw a 6-month certification from start to the end. So it's really important for them to understand. It's so we have at the same time MDR, as you said, and ISO also, ISO, MDSAP, etc. So those surveillance activities are continuing for the quality management system at the same time that you are doing the MDR certification and everything. So it's not like we are stopping everything and we are restarting with MDR. They are continuing. You are continuing to make the surveillance of also the ISO certificate.
Exactly. Yes. And it's also in our interest to combine these audits at the same time, because we do not have the resources just to come over for the MDR audit and the ISO or MDSAP. So we have to combine these audits. That's why sometimes it's confusing. Okay, for one audit, we are on surveillance, sometimes the recertification. They not always start at the same time. And this is an important question also for startups. You can split this part. You don't have to start with the MDR first. Please use these possibilities that we can exchange this. The good thing about the ISO is always that you need to know you can audit once per year. And for the MDR, it's latest 365 days after the last audit date. So there's this kind of limitation, but with the ISO, you can at this date to one audit, and then you just continuously make one audit So it reduces the amount of resources for the manufacturers who needs to be on site, and also for us for the travel expenses is also there is one part, and we have a lot of clients, and of course we need to audit them every single year.
Hey, just a second. Do you need a EU, Swiss or UK representative? Then choose Easy Medical Device. We can represent you and also become your importer. Contact us at eo@easymedicaldevice.com. Exactly, yeah. So another question that people are asking during also this transition period, and in the normal situation for their products. So should I inform you as a notified body for any of the changes of my product? So is there like a deal that you have maybe with the customer to say, when you change something, you have to inform us and you have to tell us, or you have to notify us any of those changes? And will this affect my certification, or can this affect my certification or my renewal?
Yes and no. Let me say the most famous sentence from a notified body: it depends.
Okay.
So we like to say this. In general, you have to inform your notified body about changes, but you need to compare whether it's a significant change or not. So you just have your GSPR, which explain your device. You know whether it's a significant change. When it hits some risks, there are some new risks. Like, for example, we have a new supplier for sterilization. So that the process is the same, but it's a completely new supplier. So your notified body needs to be aware of this change. So you cannot just simply change it, even though it's the same process, because there's certain parameters which needs to be checked. But if we are talking about a software and you just have some bug fixing, this is something very minor. You need to describe in your product description, but in general, if it's just a minor update, then you don't need to inform your notified body about this change.
So in that case, during an audit, if you as a notified body, you discover that there was a change that was maybe significant and what was not informed, it can be a problem for the company and problem for your certificate also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if we just identified this was a significant change and there was a major impact, this is a serious issue. So we need to understand, okay, what kind of change was this? What was the impact? And this could cause probably to withdrawal of the certificate. It always depends on what was the change itself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we have some people that say maybe that, oh, we will make a change, but let's see if they discover that during the audit, or if there is anything. So yeah, it's better, I think, to be proactive in that way instead of waiting the audit so that they are disclosing this change, or showing to you this kind of change. Now I have also some customers that have already a certificate with a notified body, and for different reasons, but maybe, for example, the notified body has not been designated for MDR, or this notified body is taking too much time to answer to my request, or their service is poor, or whatever. And I want to transfer that to another notified body. So how this process is working?
So the transfer is a really great tool, which every notified body in the European Union accepted that this is possible, and no one will block it. So this is important information you need to know. First of all, you need to reach out to the incoming notified body you are interested in. You need to figure out, do they have capacity and resources, and also the code which you are looking for to authorize. Not everyone has this. But when you do this, and just take the simple and easiest transfer, that would be the ISO transfer. You just do this offsite. You just apply for it. we will look into your history, like you provide the information from the past 3 years, also surveillance data, vigilance cases, whatever happened in the past years, and we will perform it offsite, and then we will create and issue the certificate, and we will also follow up on your cycle. Like you had the recertification audit in January 2024, then we would follow up with the surveillance audit in January 2025. So it would not be start from the scratch. So we just follow it. The expiration date of the certificate will remain the same. And we will just have the history. So that's also helpful for us, that it's not just a certification body hopping. So there have been, it could be that the manufacturer had like 1,500 findings, and he's not interested in solving them. So that's why I go to another notified body. That's why we wanted to have the history, that we are aware of this. And then, so that's a very simple one with the ISO. For the MDR, this is also possible. And it's also quite easy, but there are more aspects to consider. So you need to provide the technical documentation. We will look into it, but we will not write deficiency reports. So we will not reopen this report, but we will check whether this has been correct and not major part had been missing. And also the MDR audit reports we want to have and look into. And again, we will not write findings, but we will look into it, that we just are aware of it. And then we will go on site for a special audit. So we will just focus on certain areas like R&D for the product to audit. So it can be 1 or 1.5 days like that. We just come on site. And then we will create also the MDR certificate. Again, if we follow the cycle, so if it's in the middle, so then there are 2 years left, then there are still 2 years left. And also very important to know is that during that transfer, you can only transfer an MDR certificate 1-to-1. You cannot extend this certificate with additional codes. So first you have to transfer it, and then you just have to provide a change notification, then we can update the MDR certificate. We can reduce scope. So like when we just had in the past with the MDD, multiple devices, and we say, okay, this is not in our interest anymore, we want to phase out this device, then you can reduce it. So that's possible, but no expansion and no expansion, and only the reduction. And third to consider is the certificate should at least valid for 6 months.
Okay.
And not withdrawn or expired. So that's not possible anymore.
Okay. So I think it's important here to understand also that I liked what you said before, like you have to have the history of everything. And if you have a lot of non-conformities, etc., and you are maybe not happy with the notified body and you want to change, I don't think you will be accepting this kind of client just because they are moving from one notified body to another because they were not happy, because they don't want to accept their solution or their non-conformities or whatever. So this is important to understand that maybe this is not a good reason to make a transfer to another notified body.
Yeah. So we will not close our eyes and say, okay, hey, hello, new customer. No. We take this serious. And well, yeah, we have to look into, but also it's good to know that there will be no findings and no deficiencies. But of course, when we just come for the next year for the sampling and the surveillance, maybe there will be more findings. So it's a new relationship, and we have to figure out, okay, we want to bring them on our level, and we look into it, and so that could happen. So that you need to know.
Are you communicating with the other notified body also, or not at all?
Well, at the end, you have to sign an agreement that there is an transfer. So they need to be aware. And of course, we are communicating with the different notified bodies, but we are not calling them and say, hey, can you give us any details? What is going on?
Exactly.
Why is he leaving? So that's not the case.
Okay, great. So yeah, because this is maybe things that so I had some customers says, oh yeah, but if I contact you, I'm afraid that you will contact my other notified body to tell them that I'm transferring, and maybe they will be mad at me, and maybe they will give me more non-conformities because that, etc. So there are a lot of like assumptions that they have when they say, I transfer it. It should be a secret. I should not tell that to anyone, etc. Just to not make my previous notified body mad at me. So it's mainly the consideration they have sometimes.
Uh, I got that. I hear this question quite a lot, but well, at the end you have to open. It's a change, and of course you break up more or less with this outgoing notified body, and of course they're not happy at that point. But you need to focus on your business and what is best. And if you can provide the information with the notified body, with the incoming notified body, you get all the information. So we provide what do you need, and when we look into it, and if there are major concerns, of course, then we say sorry.
Sorry, exactly. So when you have your customer and you have withdrawn the certificate, there was also this question, can you give some kind of delay, saying, oh, I give you 6 months to finalize everything before you stop selling? Or when you say, no, there is a withdrawal, so now and no, you cannot sell anymore, and you should not deliver any product anymore on the market.
Yeah. Well, this is serious. So,
Yeah.
of course, we are private. Every notified body is a private company. We are not a governmental organization, but you have to take this serious. So, when there's a withdrawal at that moment, you're not allowed to go on the market. You have to stop right now at the very moment. You got this information.
So in the case now that you have a withdrawal and there is a serious reason for that because the product maybe is not good, or I don't know, there is some issues or there is some problems. Are you also asking your customers to make a recall of the products, or you say no, it's their responsibility, but it's not your responsibility to ask them to do that?
Well, if it's a severe event and we have patients affected, or some died, of course, we can inform them that they have to make any field safety corrective action, and they have to provide it. So, and especially for active medical implants, it's a serious case because it's implantable, but it happened. So in the past it happens, and some devices needed to be explanted.
Exactly, yeah. So in that case, it's more their responsibility to follow the same process as the MDR for the serious events and vigilance reporting, etc. And then your product, I mean, because on those products there is your CE with your notified body number, so it's more about your responsibility for these products to be also on the market. So I suppose that you have also a close communication with the competent authorities in terms of the fact that this product is not approved anymore, or that you have withdrawn your certificate.
Yeah, we are in exchange, and it's not like that we just say, okay, it's withdrawn, so it's not our responsible anymore. So we're pretty busy in the back. So yeah, there is an exchange with the authorities, and yeah, they need to be aware that no person is under severe risk or at harm, and they need to provide the information as soon as possible.
And I suppose that now that there is the UDAMED database, it will be a bit quicker because you can see immediately that this device or this product has lost its C certificate. So yeah, I think this tool is helping a lot for communication.
Yes, yes.
So thank you again, Ralph, for all this answers. So anything else, or any recommendation, or any kind of tips that you want to give to the audience here about maybe this topic?
Well, yes. I really want to bring the communication part one more up, because it's very important, and we really changed a lot. So TÜV SÜD especially is very interested in sharing a lot of information. So we like to, when there's a new startup, a new company, also the existing clients, we like to share checklists in advance so they can prepare for the beginning when we start the assessment. So especially when we focus on TD assessment, the navigation through this TD assessment, this is time consuming. It's super intense. Therefore, we like to be fully transparent and try to understand in advance what is in this package and where to find it. And please reach out to a notified body. We will bring together a certificate on the market without any delay. And this can only be possible if you are transparent as possible. And of course, we as well. And this changed a lot. So this philosophy, we invested a lot in resources that we just have the capabilities. We also had a major change in our organizational structure. So we have relationship manager who are constantly in contact with the clients and they can reach out to if they have any questions. And one last thing, especially also for the startups, we have now the possibility to perform a structured dialogue, which is an exchange before we have signed any kind of contract with the client. So you can have a call with one of our experts, especially for the clinical aspects for your clinical trial. Because if you invest a lot of money into your product development and the clinical trial, you can lose this because you just make major mistakes. You didn't consider everything. But when you are aware of this, that you are running in the right direction, that's very helpful for you. It gives you confidence in your product and later on in the assessment, and you don't lose time. I think that's the most important part. That's why we have the structured dialogue. And this is also for transparency. Share your thoughts. We can exchange and develop a strategy, which is the best solution to bring a product on the market.
So just to review this structured dialogue, we always have these assumptions that we cannot talk to notified bodies because they cannot give us advice. They are here just to verify that our product is okay and give us the green light. But we cannot discuss with them, like, for the FDA, the pre-submission where you can discuss with them, etc. So here, this structured dialogue is, I suppose, because it's forbidden to have some kind of consulting. So what are the advice that you can provide during that call, just for precision here?
You said the word consulting.
Yeah,
we're not allowed to consult,
exactly.
Right? That's it. And we cannot look really into your file, so we cannot do any pre-assessment. But the competent authority allowed us to have a very generic talk about your device group, and yeah, it's allowed to communicate and to create a strategy. So there is no restriction that we can say, okay, hey, your device will be on the market. Your plan is 2026, but we can start first with an ISO audit because you split this. And this gives you the opportunity to focus on your quality system. And later on, when the MDR part starts, to focus on the product. Combining everything is really time consuming and you need a lot of resources. And like this kind of strategy and this possibility to know what to do is helpful for both sides because the whole workload is split over 2 years and not into one certain quarter of the year. And of course, again, the clinical strategy, this is, I think, for the most manufacturers, the biggest pain point during the assessment. And if you are aware, okay, this strategy is right and they can give you some information about how to set up the clinical trial properly so they can be later on assessed. So this is not evidence they can later on use at the structured dialogue. Okay, you said at that meeting that will work. So that's not how it works. But we can say there is a possibility if you go into this direction, this is more likely than if you go into this direction.
Yeah, so you cannot use that as an excuse to say, oh, but you told me during our structured dialogue this and that, so I followed what you said, so it's you that mislead me, etc. As you said, it's just guidance in certain ways or certain options, but you are not here telling them, do this, do that, do this, do that. So it's mainly the thing here.
And to make sure, we will write meeting minutes, we will sign it, and we will save it. So also the competent authority will look into it, and we will be fully transparent that there is no consulting or no evidence they can use later on. So
exactly,
but is still a very helpful session. Everyone was so far happy with the structured dialogue and to get certain things to understand how it works. And first of all, it's communication. There is no real
consulting.
There's no real consulting. And what I actually wanted to say is reach out your notified body as soon as possible. So it doesn't have to be 6 months in advance. So then it's already too late, because then you're in this hustle. And if we just have 2 years, oh, that's great.
Exactly. Yeah. So this structured dialogue is only a service that you are providing, or you think or it's authorized by any notified body to build that kind of thing?
I'm not sure if everyone is calling like that, but they have the opportunity. Of course, it's in exchange with the competent authority. So we explained this possibility, and it's approved by the German competent authority. Not sure how it works in France or in Italy, but in general, yes, it's possible for every notified body.
Great. So for those that are listening, yeah, you can ask if there is a possibility to have a dialogue with the notified body, and then expose your case, and then maybe get some kind of options on how you can do that. Because yeah, it's true that you are paying a lot of money for this process, and at the end, losing this because of a mistake that could be avoided just by giving some tips, if I can say, or some information, can be really important here. Okay, so Ralf, really thank you very much for your all information about the certificate, and also about the structured dialogue. That was not planned at all to discuss, but it's good that we have that. Anyway, I will put all your details and the details also of TÜV SÜD on the show notes, so that people can go there. I will put also maybe some links about MDR application or whatever that people can go. So go please on the show notes, and to find out maybe the profile of Ralf if you want to have some question to him, or for TÜV SÜD if you want to just make an application with them directly. Okay, Ralf. So thank you very much again, and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you, Monia. It was great talking to you.
Bye.